Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to help you stay ahead in the fast-moving world of AI. Today, we're cutting through the noise on something specific, a concept that seems to be everywhere lately. It's being called context engineering, and it sounds, well, a bit more involved than just prompting.
It really is. Yeah, we're seeing some pretty profound shifts in how developers are even thinking about interacting with and building on top of these large language models. And the insights today, they're pulled from quite a few places, podcasts like AI News, AI Trends, plus a lot of discussion happening on AI, Twitter, Reddit, Discord, usual spots.
Right, so context engineering, it's definitely gaining traction. Let's unpack that. What exactly are we talking about here, and why is it suddenly so important?
Okay, so think of it like this. Your LLM, your large language model, it's incredibly smart, right? But it has a kind of short-term memory, the context window. Context engineering is basically about building a smart system around the LLM to feed that window just the right information at the right time.
Okay, managing the memory.
Exactly. Andres Karpathy even suggested it's a much better term than prompt engineering because it's not just the prompt, it's the whole setup. It includes software layers for things like retrieval augmented generation ARAs.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Bar array, right. That's where it looks stuff up before answering, like external documents.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So it can pull in your company's latest data, for example, makes the answers super relevant and up to date, but it also covers managing tools, letting the AI use a calculator, say, and keeping track of the conversation history, the state. So it doesn't forget what you were talking about 5 minutes ago, like a real assistant.
That makes sense. It sounds like building a whole support system. Are there specific frameworks or companies really pushing this, and how?
Oh, definitely. The term itself, apparently coined by Walden Yan at Cognition, and you've got big names championing it, like Toby Litke at Shopify.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he seems keen on DSPy for this. But frameworks like LangChain, LangGraph, they're all built around these ideas too. And a really practical example, OpenAI just rolled out ChatGPT connectors for Google Drive, Dropbox, SharePoint, Box.
Ah, so you can let it access your actual files for context.
Exactly, it pulls that info right in. That's context engineering in action for the user.
Okay, but let's bring it back to the listener. Maybe someone just uses ChatGPT occasionally. Why should they care about all this technical detail? How does it actually improve their experience?
It's fundamental, really, for everyone. Better context means the AI gives you answers that are more accurate, more relevant, less likely to just make things up. So the quality of what you get back goes way up. It understands your situation better, not just the single question you asked. It impacts you whether you're coding or just asking for, I don't know, dinner ideas.
Got it. Better ingredients make a better result. And speaking of results, the models themselves are just evolving incredibly fast. What's new and exciting on that front?
Yeah, the pace is wild. We've seen Janano 128K pop up. It's a 4 billion parameter model, so relatively small in parameters, but it has this massive 128,000 token context window.
Right.
It's huge for processing lots of info at once, like whole books or research papers. And apparently it's punching above its weight, maybe even outperforming giants like GPT-4o or Gemini 2.5 Pro in some tests, especially with minimal prompting, though you need specific setups like yarn scaling to make that huge context work efficiently.
Wow. So size isn't everything. Context capacity matters too. Anything else?
Well, there's also Mistral Small 3.2. That's a 24 billion parameter model. It's reportedly doing really well against models like Gemma 327b, even Llama 3.370b, particularly in things like writing and logic tasks.
Impressive. And it feels like AI is branching out beyond just text generation too, right? Into more specialized areas.
Absolutely. We saw Alpha Genome announced by Google DeepMind and Google AI. This is specifically for DNA analysis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it can process DNA sequences up to 1 million base pairs long. That's a massive leap for biology, for medical research. Shows how AI is becoming specialized.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How all these threads, context, new models, specialization are weaving together. What does this mean for you, the listener, and your digital world?
It means AI is becoming less of a general tool and more like a set of specialized experts. You'll see AI tailored for very specific complex tasks: medicine, science, law.
Speaking of law, that brings us to another big topic, the legal side and how industries are adapting. There was that Anthropic ruling, right?
Yes, that was significant. The Anthropic book scanning case. A judge basically ruled that using scanned books for training the AI model, that falls under fair use.
Okay, training is fair use.
But,
Yeah.
and this is the key part, keeping hold of those potentially pirated ebooks after training. That's not fair use.
Ah, so you can learn from it, but you can't keep the copyrighted material itself.
Exactly. It draws a really important line. Using public data for training seems okay, but hoarding or distributing copyrighted stuff after the fact,
Right.
that's where you run into trouble. You give some clarity, which the industry needed.
That must be causing ripples. How are companies responding more broadly to the AI wave?
We're seeing big shifts. Intercom, for example, called it a refounding moment. They're basically rebuilding to be an AI app builder, first and foremost.
Hmm.
And you see a lot of AI startup exits that are really acqui-hires, big companies snapping up small teams, mainly for their talent, their engineers. Shows how valuable that expertise is right now.
Right. The talent race.
Yeah. And underlying all this, there are these growing worries about infrastructure, like whether the U.S. power grid can actually handle the massive energy demands of all this AI development. That's a looming challenge.
So let's quickly recap then. We've dived into context engineering, why managing that AI memory is so crucial. We've seen incredibly powerful new models emerging, some specialized like AlphaGenome, and we've touched on the evolving legal landscape and how industries are scrambling to adapt.
Absolutely. The key takeaway, I think, is that the learning curve here is just immense and it's continuous. Understanding how we feed information to these models, the whole context piece, is becoming just as vital as the AI models themselves.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. As these AI models get better and better at using context, how might that change our own need to provide context or even how we think about context in our own lives and conversations? Something to ponder.